I was wrong about God. Those are the words my brother told me after he died. It was March of 2018 when my nephew Noah, my brother's oldest son, died tragically and senselessly at his own hand. I rushed to Arizona to be with my brother, wondering if I would get there and find him alive. And I just knew this was going to be hard, but I just didn't know how hard. Then in May of 2020, I got another call from my brother that his now only son, Kyle, was killed in a motorcycle accident. And any parent can imagine how devastating even the thought of this could be. And for my brother, no one could really fathom what he went through. Then in August of 21, I got one more call. This time it was from my son, who was going to school in Arizona and stopped by to visit my brother, only to discover my brother was dead. Now, I promise this isn't just a sad story about death, but really about life and what's on the other side. While my brother watched and suffered the absolute worst tragedy, the worst nightmare any parent could take, losing a child. I mean, losing his only children, his two boys, about 2 years apart, and then a year later, my brother dies from what was labeled as a fentanyl accident, or maybe it was just a broken heart. Either way, the entire story is just tragic. In time, maybe we'll get to talk about the whole thing, but you need to know that my brother wasn't a believer in God. In fact, he was just hateful about the thought of God. He felt robbed and cheated and angry and victimized, and he was hateful and distant in any idea of the divine. And in truth, I couldn't blame him. His grief was insufferable. But 2 weeks or so after he died, my brother gave me the most incredible gift of a lifetime, really. A message. He didn't leave me a message. He didn't write me a note. My brother came back and paid me a visit to show me his experience, show me where he was in heaven. My mom was there too. She had just passed a few months earlier, so my visit to heaven happened on September 7th of 2021, and I had made an appointment to have a therapy and to visit a energetic healer and a shaman, an empath, who I had visited several times before. His name is Miguel. And he was aware of these tragedies I had experienced, and he decided to perform an acupuncture therapy on me to open up my chakras, he said. And I'm going to tell you as a side note, I've had a lot of therapeutic practices or trials, none that I truly understand or advocate for, really. I mean, don't we all do what we can? Massage or chiropractor or yoga, shadow work, chakra, breathing exercises, hell, retail therapy, whatever makes us feel better, right? And I think I'm open to not knowing it all, or even if any of this works, but I am more time than not willing to try. Who hasn't looked at their astrological charts or tarot cards or talked to a priest, prayed, given gratitude, visualize, or ask the universe to manifest, or ritualistically followed your lucky routine to hit a golf ball, or thanked your guardian angels. So Miguel had me lay down on his, doctor's table, and he had covered up my eyes and stuck a few acupuncture needles into me here and there, one into my chest, saying, "Let's open up your heart." And he left the room, and so I laid there and tried to relax and just breathe. And as I tried to focus on my breath, I came kind of like distracted by these floating images or clouds, like dark clouds and light clouds in your eyes, like when close your eyes really tight. And I kind of caught a sensory feeling about these clouds, and I recall thinking, like, are these good things or evil things? Am I meditating? Am I going to meditate? And I just caught up with why this was happening or whatever. And I tried to adjust the things on my eyes and realized that my breathing was erratic, like I was hyperventilating. And at that moment, I realized that I wasn't alone. I was being held and lifted up like I was being helped out of the bed. And I kind of felt weightless. I could hear breathing. I was conscious and aware, but I was in great disbelief. Like, this breathing was not mine. And I reached around to feel my body and touch the table. And I could feel I was on the table, but I was uncomfortably positioned, like, my back was hurting. Nevertheless, I'm starting to freak out because I'm feeling like I'm floating. And then I smelled him. I smelled my brother. And I felt his breathing. I didn't see him, but it was him. I just felt him. Just like I felt the tears pouring out of my eyes. And I was just equally anchored in this disbelief, feeling the bed and my body parts, consciously thinking, like, what the fuck is going on here? And at the same time surrendering to this experience. Like, who wouldn't want to, talk to their brother again? I don't care what's going on. I'm just crying these huge tears and I'm being held by my brother and floating. And that's when he said to me, I was wrong about God. My brother, he possessed this sweet and gentle, caring voice, even though he was tough looking. But he had this excited energy, and he had to come back and tell me and pull me through to see what he was seeing, to reveal where he was and what he was experiencing. It was heaven. I was wrong about God. Look how beautiful it is. And my mind just started trying to absorb all of this in disbelief of my own, current experience. I'm here with him. And a really seismic shift in, this guy's lifelong beliefs, for a man who hated and blamed God till his dying day, to come visit me and show me how wrong he was and how beautiful it was. He was so excited. It wasn't a dream. I'm awake, trying to pinch myself out of this. And at that moment, I just understood something profound. What we think we know about the universe, most of us, about life and death, it's just beyond a sliver. And beyond that, there's beauty we can't imagine. Here I was in heaven, trying to debunk the fact that I'm here with my brother and my mom. But there's no way to do so. Think about that. What if everything you believed was wrong? My brother was so against God, but found out how wrong he was. He needed to come back and rejoice with me about how wrong he was. This has been the hard part of the story, just getting this far. I've got a lot more to tell. And if you're interested, please follow, because I'm searching for my own understanding of it. And I'll just leave you with the question: have you ever had a moment in your life that made you completely rethink everything? My story, this story, is one of them. And it's certainly one I would love not to have to tell. I feel fortunate to tell. And I think what's more is that I think you found this for a reason. If you've got this far in the video, it's for a reason greater than we can really understand. Just like there was a reason for my brother and my mom to show me heaven. And maybe, just maybe, my experience, this journey that I'm on, will give you some comfort and help you on yours. I never really thought I'd be compelled or live a life that had to talk about stuff like this. I'm not afraid of sharing. I've written books. I have put myself out there at times. This was different. It wasn't something that obviously I planned to talk about, but now feel compelled I need to talk about it. It's about the truth. What happened to me is bigger than anything I've worked on, really. Now it's because I want to, because I need to. When you've seen what I've seen, how can you stay quiet? I've told a few people, nobody watches some things, and it feels different to share. I'm not sure if you ever had something happen to you that you felt so compelled to talk about, even if you didn't want to. Even now, I feel better thinking it through again. So yeah, if you're wondering what heaven looks like, let me tell you, it's nothing like what you've been told. It's a river. Is a great way to describe it. An electric blue flame river of truth and love. It's not, in my experience, heaven full of streets of gold and pearly gates and a dude with a beard. It's an endless current of love. I dip my hand into the river and it fell through me. It washed over me. It was a dark universe and just the infinite blue river of energy running through it. The information that was given to me, although I could not see my mother or brother, it was them speaking to me, through God's voice. And I had information downloaded to me from my mother and from my brother through God that was instantly downloaded to me like a thumb drive to your hard drive in an instant. And the river just flowed back on itself, what was for an infinity. I asked questions about other loved ones who had passed. My father, Noah, I asked about, and it was given to me that you just know that everybody's okay. All of your loved ones will be okay, no matter what. And then I had this experience of still seeing these clouds moving back and forth, and I go, here comes the bad stuff again. I see these black images in, and that's when my mom shared, this is what I heard, everything's going to be fine. And what was given to me was nothing bad has ever happened. And that's a really, really profound thing to take in. So I have spent a long time unpacking that. And what I've come to know is that this transitory experience that we're in is just that, transitory. It's a period that passes. And the natural continuance of this next experience is an infinite experience. Nothing bad has ever happened. Huge, huge, huge concept to absorb. And I'm still working on that. So after I went through this experience, I looked up other people that have had these type of experience, and most of it's been called NDEs, near-death experiences. And what I experienced was not a typical light at the end of the tunnel, those stories that you hear. And I didn't almost die. I wasn't out of my body. This was something else entirely. I was in body. I was awake, fully aware, lying there in complete control. And I felt my brother's presence. I wasn't on the edge of death. I was alive, conscious, and felt like I was with him in heaven. The realm isn't just something we touch when we die. It's something we can access right here. My experience with just my mom and my brother and God, no symbols, no middleman, just a pure connection. And I learned in tenths of seconds the essence of everything, love and truth and peace. It's so simple and powerful, and that God isn't up there and looking down on us. He's right here with us, all around us, waiting for us to listen and to receive. And why me? Out of all the people in the world, I've asked myself 1,000 times, like, you feel kind of chosen, you feel blessed. And I'm still trying to figure it out, how to reconcile this gift, this feeling of being chosen to witness something so profound. The truth is, I don't know why it happened. But I do know that when something so powerful crosses my path, it's not meant to be kept to myself. And I wrote, and now I'm trying to communicate, that which I know. You know what's been the biggest takeaway, the biggest feeling from my heaven experiences? My loss of fear. Since that experience, something's changed in me. And I realize that the fears we cling to, the fear of death, the fear of the unknown, are all part of our human limitation. I was shown a world where fear doesn't exist, where there's only love and truth. So I have this new nagging sense of, why should I fear anything? This body is a life and it's just temporary. What lies beyond is something far greater, far more beautiful. So losing fear is a ginormous concept. So yeah, in all of God's universe, nothing bad has ever happened. It's just an enormous concept. But it was instantly downloaded, and what I can only describe as a 0-point God experience. And so a lot of times we define our lives by good and bad and these type of experiences, but to think there's no such thing as bad is something that we just don't understand yet. My brother, who had this unimaginable loss, showed me that the darkness we fear isn't absolute evil. It's simply the unknown. It's all that we cannot see. And in this moment, I knew beyond some limited perception lied a truth we're only beginning to touch, and that the fears that hold us back are often just the illusions we come up with ourselves. Look, heaven was a continuous strand of energy wrapping itself through every universe, every moment, connecting everything. And pure love, pure truth, as real as it was for me, was heaven. And often we think heaven is this distant place, but what if it's already around us, waiting for us simply to see it? It's a place of pure love so powerful. How can we not give it a chance to receive it? It's not something awaiting us. It's not something out there. It's waiting for us to become. I wasn't imagining it. It was fully present, and I felt the peace and the truth of that place. It's reality that surrounds us, waiting for us to see it. It's not out there. It's here, flowing all around us. It's hard to swallow, right? But in that moment, I realized we see bad as just our limited human judgments. We label what we don't understand as wrong. But the universe doesn't see it that way. There's only love and truth, and everything in between is just a process of learning. Another big takeaway is this thing about knowing. There's a huge difference between believing or faith versus knowing. Belief is hope, and knowing is certainty. And look, I've spent most of my life with faith, believing in something greater. But when I had this experience, everything changed. It didn't necessarily counter everything I knew, but it shifted everything I knew from faith or hope into knowing. Belief is trusting in someone you can't see. And you may believe me or not. But in my head, there's no room for doubt. It's like the difference between hoping the sun will rise tomorrow and watching it rise every single morning. Once you've been touched by that truth, you don't just believe it anymore, you know it. And that's how everything has changed for me, from faith to knowing. My brother was a cool cat. And he had this saying, he actually had it tattooed on him, and it said, "Loving isn't love." And I never really understood it until now. My brother carried that quote around like it was part of his soul, and I used to wonder what he meant by it. And I've written songs and books and screenplays, all with an intention of putting these lovey words together into story so maybe others could understand a part of me. And I wanted to share my experiences with the world, about the things I've learned, and somehow that they could resonate with others. But until this experience, this heaven experience, it changed everything. When I got to experience what heaven really is, I realized something, that loving is an action. It's something we do. But love, true love, it's unconditional, which I've always had a problem with that phrase, unconditional love. But I think in English, it's the only way we can say it. It just is. Loving is the essence of love, but it's still tied to our human understanding, to our limitations. Real love is beyond condition, beyond reason, beyond expectation. It's what I felt in that moment. It's pure and infinite and without boundaries. And suddenly it made sense. We can spend our whole lives trying to understand love through action, through loving others, through trying to give and receive, but real love, the kind I experienced, isn't something you give or take. It's something you know. It's not something you try to do. It's something that just flows through you. It flows through us. It's that blue river of energy that I saw in heaven, and it's in each one of us, waiting to be realized. At first I asked, why did this happen to me? Why am I supposed to, deal with this? And then it hit me. My words, my stories, my experiences, they can help someone. They can help others move from the essence of love, from loving as an action, to a deeper understanding of love as truth. And that's what this experience taught me. We can move from an essence of a thing to a knowing of a thing. Loving may be something we do, but love, real love, is who we are at our core. And if my words of sharing this journey can help even one person realize that truth, then this is the whole purpose. It's been a couple years since I've had this experience, September 7th, 2021. And I've developed a sensory, like I can feel when I am around somebody that has been awakened to the truth of heaven, or that can express themselves in love at a dimension that is different than most people relate to it. And I can see it, I can feel it, and I know it, and it's peaceful to know. So my afterlife experience gave me a receptor for energies and a certain kind of presence, and I feel fortunate about it. There are those who live in a quiet understanding that love is only truth, and I can see them, I can feel them, and I can't quite explain it. But it's not judgment, it's just me understanding everybody's journey is still unfolding. And that not everybody's there, and I don't need to get everybody there. Heaven, love is the ultimate force. And I see that same love in people here. And I can sense those who already know what I've seen, even if they can't quite explain it for themselves. And there's also those who haven't yet touched that understanding. It's not a judgment, it's not my judgment, it's just that their journey is still unfolding. In heaven, love is the ultimate force. And I see that same love in people here. Some are aware of it, some aren't. but I'm under good authority. We all get there. I can't help but think that I come off crazy when people hear this story. And if you're still here after I've told you this, I know you've stayed for a reason, that you're meant to see this, not by accident. Whenever I've shared this story in the past, I want to doubt it. I want to debunk it. People look at me sideways, maybe, and laugh it off. But here's the thing. I feel like I've been touched by something bigger than me, something divine. And it doesn't matter what other people think. And the crowd thins out. It's okay. I've seen the light and I've seen its energy. I've been to heaven. I don't have to prove it. I guess that's it. I don't have to prove it. It's about what's in your heart. We don't need to convince the world of our truth. We just need to live it. In truth, we don't even have to understand everything to know it's real. My experience taught me one thing, and there are truths in this world that we'll never fully understand. But that does not make them any less real. In our desperate search for answers, we often think that we can explain something, or if we can't explain something, it must not be true. But the universe doesn't work that way. Just because something is beyond our comprehension doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. I felt the presence of my brother as I saw heaven as a river of love. And that experience is something impossible to fully explain. And yet I know it's real. The human mind is limited. Our ability to grasp the infinite, the divine, is limited. But what we feel, what we know deep within ourselves, that's a real truth. We don't have to explain everything in order to believe it. Sometimes we just need to trust the experience. What is truth? I feel like I know what love is and truth, but it's a deep, piercing feeling of what truth is, and it's not the judgment of right or wrong. It's simply what is. We often think of truth as something to be proved or debated, like we're consistently trying to figure out what's right and what's wrong. But truth isn't about judgment. It's about seeing things exactly as they are without adding layers of belief or fear or bias, or it's not about the things we want it to be. It's about what it is. It's about what they are. There was a philosopher who said something to the effect like, observing without evaluating is the highest form of wisdom. Truth remains that we stop trying to force things into these boxes. Truth is just as it is. There's a lot of things that I guess I left heaven with other questions on top of the things I discussed, like why me and how am I going to tell the world about this? But one of them was, this purpose. Why go through all that we go through? And it's one of the things that I'm trying to piece together. If this is just a layover, think about it. Life we experience is all that we all go through is just like that, a layover, a temporary stop on our way to some other destination. For some, it's quick and easy, and for others, it feels like a lifelong challenge to sit there and wait it out, or think that you're being inconvenienced. But whether you treat a layover as something joyful or something difficult, it's what we make of it, that's the big thing. So no matter how we spend this time we have, our destination's the same. We all make it, every single one of us. And if I can instill anything, just believe me, there's nothing to fear for what comes next. The journey doesn't end, it continues. There's no end. We endure. So embrace the moments, the people, and love people that you find along the way. love, love, love them. The rest is just a part of a bigger story, and we will all get there in the end. And there are two simple things we can do right now to love more and judge less. Like I said, we all have preferences in the things that we like and the things that we don't, but judgment, like real judgment, stands in our way of real love. So here are the things you can do. You can open your heart and stop judging so much. Whenever we feel judgment creeping in, we can ask ourselves, who am I to judge? That simple question creates space to release judgment and let love in. And the next one is to understand that the opposite of love isn't hate. I think it's grief. That's what's left over when love is blocked. When we lose connection, we feel grief. And grief at its simplest is a temporary human feeling. It's the interpretation of love lost. So instead of focusing on what you dislike or prefer, ask yourself, what can I love about things? Any things, all things, even bad things. Even the things that challenge you. It doesn't mean you have to like everything. But when you look for love in everything, you can find it, I promise. Because in the end, love is all there is. And that one true love is waiting for us all. Losing my brother was hard enough. And the hardest part came after, which was erasing an entire branch of my family tree. Just like that, my brother and his two sons were gone within 3 years. No heirs, no continuations of their legacy. And it felt like a whole branch of our family tree had just been cut down. And on top of that, cleaning out his house and sifting through a lifetime of memories. I donated what I could, sold a few things, and believe me, I did my best, but so much was just thrown away. It was gut-wrenching, like erasing a piece of history, a part of who we were. And now, after experiencing what I've experienced and feeling my brother come to me and show me that he had gotten it so wrong, the hardest part shifted. It's no longer about the grief, the felt absence of his presence, his humor, his wisdom, his love. It's now about how to share what I've learned with the world. And really just with anybody who wants to or needs to listen, to know that while we may grieve, we can grow and we can ascend. We can try to believe, or if my words can convince you, to know that everything's going to be okay. So it's kind of my daily dilemma of sorts. How do you go about enlightening others when you've seen something so profound and real, but super hard to explain? That's where I'm at now, trying to figure it out. Trying to help others if I can. Tell them about the truth. Tell them about the truth that's waiting for all of us. Part of what I deal with almost every day is that it's this understanding that the universe is trying to talk with us, communicate with us. It speaks in my quiet moments and the synchronicities of natural coincidences that I think carry a deeper meaning. We're so busy looking for signs in the obvious places that we forget that the universe doesn't always shout, out loud to us, but sometimes it just whispers. I think it's in the subtleties, in the moments that, these little moments that we overlook. My experience with the afterlife wasn't something that happened to me because I was special or chosen. It was something that was always there, waiting for me to open it. And when I did, the floodgates opened. Look, we don't have to wait for life-changing events to connect with the universe or with the truth or even with our loved ones departed. We just have to quiet our minds sometimes long enough to hear what's already being said. The answers are all around us. Are we paying attention? What comes to me while I'm talking is, what if death isn't the end? What if there's not even a beginning? So we're taught to think of death as this defining moment, the end of our story. For those who believe, we're the beginning of something new. But what if it's neither? What if death is just a continuation, a seamless flow into what is next? When I felt my brother and my mom after they passed, I could kind of realize that death didn't separate us. I miss them like crazy. Sure, I felt my mom and my brother's passing. We all feel sorrow and lament, when people leave us. But their love didn't end, just their physical bodies. This experience makes me question everything I thought I knew about life and death. We spend so much time fearing it, avoiding it, or trying to make sense of it, but what if death is simply part of the journey? We know it is, but what if the only thing that changes is our perspective, our understanding of what life really is? The truth, life and death aren't opposites. They're not even separate. They're connected in ways that we can't fully understand. So why are we so afraid of something that might just be a new chapter in an endless story?